Got a bit of a drive to meet one of our clients, Phil from Game Time Scoreboards, Game Time Technologies. We've been working with them for a little bit, and they're sort of at the point now where we're going to have some active conversations on the investment side of things, aside from just the business development and working on their investment deck and relationship building. But a topic that I talked about a little while back, I keep getting some pretty decent responses and added value to it, and that's the problem solver and the pain points that create the best founders. So the best founders of a startup or small business, or even just the solopreneur situation, are those who are actively in the situation, see a problem, and figure out how to solve it. But not just solve it for their current situation or their current employer. Obviously, those people that can do that are a huge value to companies and to employers, and solving a problem, assuming that your employer is open to it, is a huge value. I think undervalued in a lot of cases. But being able to see a problem, assume that other people are having the same problem, and solving it at scale is where that entrepreneurial mindset comes from. It's, I see this as a pain point. Other people likely see it as a pain point. How do we solve it, and how do we solve it on a much larger scale than our current situation? I'm always pretty careful about not pontificating in my content, but that's really, in my own entrepreneurial situations, that's where I've created my businesses from. Is, I wanted a certain goal or need or career, and where I was located or in the situations that I was in, that job didn't exist. My first venture into entrepreneurship, I wanted to work for a large athletic apparel company, the Adidas, Nike, Under Armour, Reebok. This was years back, and from a geographical standpoint, those jobs didn't exist where I was located. Obviously there are offices in Canada for those groups, but nowhere near where I was. So what I did was I created a company that was a sales agency working for athletic apparel brands and sporting goods equipment. So it didn't matter where I was. I was a remote worker and bringing American brands to Canada, and that was an experience builder. Then I discovered doing that I didn't need to necessarily work for a company. I could work for multiple companies, and I created my own situation. I solved my own problem. Even with Athletic Venture Advisors, I knew, thanks to working this through with mentors, what I wanted to do for the remainder of my career. And in Canada, to some degree, there are some in Montreal, Toronto, but nowhere close enough for me unless it was remote, and nowhere where they would accept someone who's from outside of the industry. So if there was a sports technology venture capital firm in Canada, then maybe that would be a target, but that doesn't exist. And maybe now that I say it out loud, maybe that's the direction that Athletic Venture Advisors goes, and create it. But there's another pain point to solve. But the job that I wanted, working with emerging technologies in sports and sports technology in Canada, did not exist. So I knew that there had to be a way, and rather than hope that I fall upon it at some point, I made it. I created it, and that's the best way to solve a problem. Is if a solution doesn't exist, make one. And that's where an entrepreneur's mind actually works, and it can be a dangerous game to play, because serial entrepreneurs tend to see opportunity in everything, and in some cases it can be hard to focus on certain things. So I want all those problem solvers out there. I want you to think of, if this is a pain point for me, maybe it is for someone else, and maybe there's an opportunity there to build something much bigger than your current situation. Entrepreneurship can be a scary situation and can be a lonely situation, but it's the better solution than being a part of a cog in the machine. You have the opportunity to create your own machine, and there's definitely more growth in building something like that than there is in constantly solving someone else's problem.